Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza. I'm in Dallas, Texas, about to go into a conference. But before I did, I had to do this Rockstar Minute about this thing they're calling the First-Time Homebuyer Incentive Program that they announced in Canada. So if you haven't heard about it yet, here's how this thing's going to work. The government of Canada is now getting into the mortgage subsidy business or home ownership subsidy business. So listen to this. If you are buying a new, this is for first-time homebuyers, if you are buying new construction, they'll give you a subsidy up to 10% of the value of the home. If you're buying resale, up to 5%. They're going to cap that to families that make an income of up to $120,000 a year as a family, and that'll max out. They're going to multiply that by I think 4 times or so. So you can only get a home up to a value of about $500,000. So that's kind of how it's going to work. And if you're in Toronto, you might think you can't even buy a home for $500,000. But if you go about an hour outside the city, all around Toronto, kind of like in the Durham area, Barrie, Kitchener, Hamilton area, you can totally buy a home for $500,000. So this is going to apply, and it will help a lot of people buy their first home. So as an example, if you buy a $400,000 home, here's how it's going to work. The $400,000 home, if you put 5% down as a first-time home buyer, you would have a mortgage of $380,000 typically. But the federal government is going to give you a subsidy of 5%. So instead of having a mortgage of $380,000, you will have a mortgage of $360,000. So their idea with that is that it's going to make you easier. It'll make it easier to qualify to get the house, and your payments every month will be less as well, obviously. So you won't have a mortgage of $380,000, you'll have a mortgage of $360,000, and your payments will be based off $360,000. But here's the kind of the catch. The government now has an equity stake in your house. So I just want to repeat this. The federal government of Canada is going to own pieces of people's property. I absolutely hate this idea. So like, I love the fact that we as a country are trying to help people get homes and stuff like that. But the idea that the federal government is now going to have a stake in people's houses, like the federal government is going to have a stake in home ownership in this country, and they haven't really decided how you're going to repay it. Right now, there's no real plans. The details apparently are coming in the fall, but you are going to have to repay the government this, obviously, at some point. But the federal government's going to have a stake in the home. And the reason I don't like this is that, like, the government always does the wrong thing. So the part of the reason I like assets so much and good income producing rental properties and income properties and real estate in general, and even though this is a real estate thing, I don't like the program, but the program does kind of benefit real estate in a weird way because the government always spends too much money. Like, they don't have the money to do this incentive program. They haven't saved up this extra $1 billion that they're putting towards the program. In fact, in 2019, apparently the Liberal budget is in a $19 billion deficit. And this is the year that we were told they were going to balance the budget. So because the government spends more money than it has, it always trashes the value of the Canadian dollar. And what that automatically does is it makes assets, hard assets, good assets that pay for themselves, go up in value. So this is a program that, like, they're trying to fix a problem. Like, the problem they're trying to fix is 10 years of low interest rates, that they kept interest rates too low for too long. What it did in an area like Toronto and Ontario with a growing population base, it drove up the property value of prices so high that now first-time homebuyers can't buy it. And instead of fixing the problem of low interest rates for too long, they're coming out with this subsidy where they're going to take a stake in people's houses. And, you know, it just seems crazy to me. And here's the next question that I have. What happens next? So if they only do this program for 2 or 3 years, what happens in 10 years when, like, my son wants his first home or something like that, or your daughter who's like 12 now wants to buy her first home when she's 22? Are they just going to tell those people, well, sorry, we helped out, you know, for a few years, but we don't help out anymore? I don't think so. They'll likely continue this thing. So now for the rest of eternity, does the federal government have a stake in Canadian home ownership? That is not living life on my terms. I don't want the government to be playing around with my home ownership. So anyway, that's some of our initial thoughts. Until next time, your life, your terms.